Okay, perfect. Yeah, welcome, folks. Good evening. Thank you for being here. And so I'd like to just, get right into it and introduce our panelists for this evening. Yeah, so first starting off, I'd love to introduce Huang, who's with us here today, who's the writer and director of Dealing with Dad. Also love to introduce Christian Flores, who's a program manager at US Aging, who joins us this evening, as well as Pata Suyemoto, who is the executive director of NAAPIMHA and director of NAAPIEN for us here. And so thank you all very much. Those were brief introductions, but now I'd love if, our panelists could introduce themselves a little bit further, and share a little bit more about what they do and what they're bringing to this space right now. Thank you. And I don't know, Pat, if you'd like to start perhaps, and then we can popcorn it.
Sure. Sure. I'm Pata Suyemoto, and I am the executive director, as Elizabeth mentioned. I am also a person with lived experience with major depression, PTSD, and ADHD, and I have lived with these conditions since I was about 12. I also work in the suicide prevention space as at the Center of Suicide Prevention and Equity. And yeah, I'm very excited to be here. I think, more will unfold. I don't need to share my life story. It's kind of long because I'm not young anymore. So let's let's go to Christian. We'll end with Tom because that way I know there's a question coming up for him.
Yeah, no, perfect. Thank you, Pata. Hi, everyone. My name is Christian Flores. I am based in Los Angeles, California. I go by any pronouns, and currently where I work, where I am professionally, I am a program manager here at US Aging, a member organization for area agency for aging, and a lot of the work that I do specifically in my organization is on older adults and people with disabilities. So I'm currently in the aging space, but beyond that, in my past professional experience and also just my personal experience, I have worked a lot on ANHPI health initiatives, health equity, community building, and many different capacities and also positions and organizations. I have been at NAPCA, which is kind of the national organization for older adults for NHPIs, and I've and my background is in public health. So also I think worth noting that I am a Filipino American immigrant. I immigrated when I was 14. I am also queer, so I have that lived experience that really, I think, as I reflected, on this film, like those facets about me like really come into play. So anyways, and I will popcorn it to Tom.
Hey, hey everyone! Thanks for coming out for this for the panel. My name is Tom Huang. I'm the writer director of the film Dealing with Dad. This is my fourth feature film, and all my films have been like on various somewhat personal subjects. I've actually wrote for TV for 4 seasons. But currently I'm working on future feature films, and I plan to stay with that. So that's me.
Thank you all so much. And so, Tom, to stay with you at this point, I'd love, for folks who've just come from the screening, have seen Dealing with Dad, I would love to know just like what were, as you mentioned, doing feature films that are, drawing upon your own experiences, what did inspire you to make this film and what experiences did you draw from?
Yeah, this film was based on my experience trying to get my dad out of depression. It took about 8 years. And part of the reason was that I didn't know what it was when I first encountered it. And I was in college at the time, so I would be going back and forth and not really have a chance, like, say to see him on an extended basis. But a lot of the reason was because it was once I understood what depression was, trying to get his friends and family to understand what it was and accept it as a disease and not just as some sort of emotion or something that was just going to go away. And it took a while for me to convince people to look at it that way. I mean, it's hard enough for me to get my parents to go to the hospital if they break their leg or something. But like, something they consider to be sad is even tougher. So once I was able to help them see that, that he needed to be treated like any other disease, it got to be a little bit easier for us to get him support he needed. And it was such a transformative experience that I decided I wanted to do a film or a story about it, just so it could hopefully not only entertain, but also get discussion started about depression and mental health, so that people feel like they can actually, do something about it, not have to sit and watch it.
Thank you so much. That's really powerful. And so thank you. I just noticed Nat joined us. Thank you for powering through technical difficulties so much. Thank you for being here. We just got started. So Nat, would you like to introduce yourself? Just briefly share a little bit, and yeah, then we can jump back into some questions.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, everyone. My apologies for being late. I have technical issues. My name is Nadha. Vikitsreth. I am first-generation immigrant and trans woman, and I specialize my clinical practice in intergenerational family healing. So the movie is right up my alley. I had to watch and pause and cry and watch it again. It was such a gift, and I am so excited to be in conversation with each of you today. Sorry again that I'm late. Yeah.
No worries. Technical difficulties happen. We're operating in a Zoom world. Thank you so much for being here. And so to kind of continue on that, Nat, as you mentioned, the reaction to the film for our other panelists, Christian, Pata, and Nat, I would love to know, like on the level that this is a film, that very much centers mental health. There are many themes, I think, that we touched upon, that of depression, and the character of the father. Also, a lot of, as you mentioned, not like the intergenerational themes as well, potentially. And so I would just want to know for other panelists, maybe resonated with you and any lived experience that you might have for those elements in the film. So sorry, I realized I should I'll ask someone first. So Pata, would you like to maybe share your input on that first? Thank you. And feel free to popcorn.
No, I have known this about NAAPI groups, is we're also polite. We like wait and wait and wait. So anyway, yes, I'm happy to start us off. Yeah, I thought the film was really exquisitely rendered, and I feel like my personal experience, my mother dealt with bipolar disorder, had bipolar disorder growing up. And she would have very serious bouts of depression and hole up in her room, very similar, situation. And, just trying to figure out, and I have a sister, and just trying to figure out, is mom okay? What's going on? Is it going to get worse? All those kinds of questions I thought were, really resonated with me. I also have a daughter who has bipolar disorder. So, in terms of the, both ends of the spectrum, if you will, in terms of caretaking. But I think one of the things that I just want to mention is that, I think this, you said, Tom, that it was 8 years, that you were working with your dad. And sometimes I think, in the film, it goes much faster, and I think one of the things that, that is also true is that sometimes it does resolve, right? And everyone's just like, okay, good. But sometimes it doesn't. And it does take much longer, to get a person in treatment, to get them the care they need, and to get the right care. I have major depression. It took me 10 years to find the right medicine. So, I have treatment-resistant depression, so it was difficult. So I think that just having something to start the conversation in our families is so important. So thank you for making this film. Let's go to Nat to answer the question.
Thank you. The part that really is resonating with my family dynamic right now is the question amongst myself and my 2 siblings, very much similar to the family in the film. We're wondering, will our parents change? They're going through this bout of trying to be our parents again. When we were little, they worked 3 jobs to put food on the table and roof over our head, and there wasn't a lot of space for them to provide that kind of emotional connection that any children would need. And now they're retired and they're attempting to provide that kind of emotional connection in their own ways, right? And my siblings and I were like, are they going to change? Are they changing for real? And we're trying to hold this tension between, of course, any human would grow and change. But when it comes to our own parents, we seem to have less faith. So we're contending with that dynamic and trying to, there's a saying that I often share with the parents that I work with is to get to know our parents, like our grandparents' child, and then get to know them that way. It's a quote from a psychotherapist. And that's where we're at right now. And trying to see multiple aspects of our parents. It's such a relief to see that. It's also heartbreaking at the same time to see our parents in different light. So it's fun.
Yeah, I'd have to say that the background of the film and my original intention of the film is about depression and mental health, but really the story of this film is about Margaret, and it's about Margaret trying to figure out what her relationship with her father is. And I think that when I was in college, I think I had a complex relationship with my parents as well. It is only when I started to realize that my parents were never going to change, that if I want to have a relationship with them, that I was gonna have to change and work with them if I ever want to, like, be able to sit in a room with them for more than 1 minute. So once I came to that realization, it actually got to be a lot easier for me to figure out how to relate to my parents and form a relationship. So I'm glad you said that.
Christian, would you like to have the floor now?
Yeah, I'll piggyback off of what Nat said. I think a lot of the things that resonated with me was these moments in the film where the siblings would kind of come together and reflect a lot on how they were raised and what those impacts are on how they are with their relationships, familial, romantic, and how they navigate their life. I think now that me and my siblings are much older than that we're all adults, and as our parents are also getting older, it's a lot of trying to be patient with our parents and trying to figure out, okay, yeah, pretty much, like, are they going to change? Like, they do change, but some things just kind of stay like constant, and how do we navigate around that, and how do we heal, how do we support each other in our own healing, if we aren't. And it's actually a conversation I've had with my sister, that we can't seek that healing from our own parents, because sometimes they may not always like fully understand what the kind of impact that they did, even though they did their best to be the best parent that they know how to be, based off of their own parents. So kind of giving them grace in that end, but also knowing that, like, healing wouldn't come from blaming them for messing us up, or not being imperfect parents. I think those are just the conversations that I really connected with, and that I felt a really strong connection with. I think really those times that the siblings would really talk and find a solace within each other, and they're almost trauma bonding, right? So and trying to navigate through that. So
Not almost, they are trauma bonding. So.
yeah, not almost, yes, exactly, absolutely, trauma bonding. Yeah, thank you, Tom.
Yes, thank you all. I guess then, and to return to, Christian, for example, and knowing like you work with older adults and you as aging have worked with ANHPI, elders, and your own personal experiences. I would just wonder if any of our panelists have any insights from professional or personal experiences for maybe how to approach that sense of, quote unquote, dealing with dad or a family member and trying to have, some sort of constructive conversation and maintain a supportive relationship in a way that is also healthy and maybe honoring, from the perspective maybe a child or a younger person. that intergenerational conversation. Yeah, it doesn't have to be this like, how do you do this step-by-step guide, but just any, insights and how you've approached that. Or even maybe it is stepping away and knowing there's a limit at times. That too, yeah, love to hear.
I can jump in. And I think this is coming more from my personal experience and through my therapist, and a lot of the things that we talk about too is kind of, navigating my relationship with my family and specifically my parents, especially when it comes to, my queerness and their acceptance of it, and them being a lot more traditional and, kind of conservative. So a lot of figuring out like how to do that, but in a respectful way, but also creating boundaries for yourself to keep yourself also, afloat, because there are a lot of things in life that like, that bog us down. What more our parents or our relationship with our parents. But one thing that like has really helped me was reminding myself to always lead with curiosity rather than judgment. I think because sometimes our parents, or at least my experience with my parents, that they may not always be as communicative. Maybe my dad isn't as communicative, and that lack of communication kind of leaves a lot of room for assumptions and judgments, and sometimes that is what really is harmful to, to me and how I understand, my feelings and how I feel. And sometimes I get stuck on those very negative feelings, and it kind of just transforms into this ugly, just, emotions and kind of like mentality when it comes to my parents. So reminding myself that, to lead with curiosity rather than judgment. And very much what Nat said, I'm gonna piggyback off of what she said, was thinking of them as children of my grandparents, and why do they act the way they do, and kind of really and really honestly leading with compassion. I think that's it's always not the easiest, because sometimes they really hurt us, and that hurt like really goes deeply, but you being able to heal yourself and like and move forward as your healed self, I think is the best way that I found to really connect and communicate and to maintain a good relationship with my parents, and I think for any older adult. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I mean, obviously everyone's parents are different, so it's hard to give a one approach. I mean, with my parents, it was always difficult to kind of bring up subjects where, especially subjects where I've tried to, uh, if I see something that I think maybe they need to fix or something that needs help, it's difficult sometimes for them to accept that. I think for me, at the first thing is that at least I know I at least should try. And if that fails, then figure out where to go from there. But kind of like what Christian was saying is, I think for me with my parents, I also learn to develop a tough skin for their reactions or what they say to you, knowing I know that they love me. They just might not have the greatest way of showing it or expressing it. And with that in mind, not letting what they say to me affect me so much as it did when I was younger. And then I think once that happened, it was a lot easier for me to have conversations with them. And then in some cases too, in a case with older parents, like, I'm their kid. I'm always going to be their kid, no matter how old I am. I'm going to be the 5-year-old kid that they see. And so so a lot of times I just don't think they would listen to me. In the case of my dad with depression, it was hard because, it was hard as a depressed person to listen to someone in general, but also to listen to someone that's your kid. In my family structure, was not something he really could accept. So it really took me convincing his best friend from Taiwan to like see what he needed. And once I was able to do that, and he came over every day for weeks to just talk to my dad and keep talking to him. And at some point, he was able to reach out, reach a point where he was able to take my dad to the doctor and have him diagnosed. But I think in that case, it really took me finding someone else that my dad could trust to trust more to convince him.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think, it is sometimes hard to maintain, I mean, my mother and I had I took care of her, and so it was a close relationship, but it was also a very hurtful and harmful relationship. No one wants to be a parentified child. That's not cool. And so one of the most poignant pieces for me in your film was when the dad apologizes. Because my mother apologized at one point, very late. She was dying of cancer, actually, and she apologized. But for me, it felt like a little too late. I mean, that's the way it felt. And like now, at that time, I was like, 20 years younger. At this point, I can understand her better, just aging myself and all that kind of thing. I can understand that, she had regrets that she really couldn't own up to herself. But I think that, for me, it was like, understanding that, I mean, I understand that my parents and my mom in particular was trying to do the best she could, but it actually wasn't enough. And I think actually naming that is important and saying, I forgive you. I love you. I care about you. I want to hear your struggles, but it doesn't mean that you didn't have serious impact on my life. And I think you can hold both those things together. Particularly as an adult, right? I mean, when you're a kid, it's all muddled up, but like, after a lot of therapy, I can hold both those things together and say, yes, I love you, Mom, and I know you did the best you could. And,
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think for my particular film, I just wanted to bring that question up you're bringing up, Pata, which is, how how much can you forgive a parent? In the case of this film, maybe in the case of my parents, they did a lot of, they create some mental trauma for me for sure. But nothing like what I think some other families have done to their kids. So this one I just wanted to bring up the question. And I think that you're right. It's like everyone needs to find what their answer is. And I think that's tough, but balancing, accepting what love you see from your parents to with, what they possibly have done to you in your life. I think it's tough to tell someone what's right to forgive and not forgive. And I certainly did not want to do that in this film.
I just want to make it clear that you didn't.
No, I know you're not saying that, but okay. I think it's really, I didn't want to portray, what happens in this film, like, oh, this is the answer to how you deal with your parents. Right?
No, I didn't get that sense at all.
Good, yeah, but I totally understand that there's, I hope that people at least will look at this film and ask themselves, what in their situation is best for them.
Right, which I think it does. It does a lot of opening up of questions as opposed to giving answers, which I think is beautiful.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, there's definitely, this beautiful dialogue, I think, that's, sparked by the film. And so as a follow-up, Tom, and I noticed there's a question in the chat as well of just noting, like, with that, I'm sure, as an artist, as a filmmaker, that could be probably challenging, try to hold all those different themes and, at once. But then, yeah, would love to know, like, what were some of maybe the challenges that you encountered and that may be logistical or thematic or, of that nature. And then also maybe some of your favorite moments as well to kind of balance out challenges too. Yeah, good times.
Sure. Thank you. And I originally, like I said, wrote this film to hopefully start a discussion about depression because that's what happened to my dad. And then just developing these characters and also bringing in my own personal stories into this. So many other things came out of it that I had no idea would come out of it. And as it turns out, we've played 37 film festivals across the US. We've played 22 cities, theatrical run, and see people's reaction. It just blew me away that, so many people connected with different things in the film. And so, I guess it's just like, it's just nice to see that there is a shared narrative that you don't even know about, and just talking about your stories like we're doing here, connect with people in ways you don't even realize, without actually thinking about it, right? You just tell your story and then not really thinking who might connect with, and all of a sudden these people, you start finding these connections with all these people that have the same similar experiences in some way. So that was really amazing to see, and gratifying to see. As far as like challenges, it just, besides just being like a small indie film, we shot this film in 14 days, over 3 weeks, for a feature film, that's really fast. And we just because of our budget, we had to do that. And I was just really fortunate to have a cast and crew who was willing to work, and put the work in so that we could just shoot everything, and do it in a way that achieved the goals that we wanted. We shot it right after the first vaccines came out for COVID. So we're shooting under COVID guidelines. So we had to be tested 3 times a week. And if anyone had gotten COVID, the production would have been over. And so, there's not much we could really do about that. Just put our heads down, have everyone wear masks, and follow guidelines, and hope that no one catches it. We actually got an Airbnb near the parents' house set, so that the cast and crew most of the cast and crew could just live together, and like be isolated from all that. So we got through everything, and then also we filmed in Diamond Bar, which is a suburb east of Los Angeles, and it's basically during the summer is about as hot as Phoenix, Arizona. I mean, so we filmed in August of 2021, and it was probably 100 degrees out every day. And we're filming in this old house that had a very limited air conditioning. And when we're shooting, we want to turn off the air conditioning anyway, because you don't want the sound in the background. So you see all these scenes in the film of them like being cold, of like, just talking normally, like everything's fine. It's actually probably about 95 degrees in there. And so like every take, like, we do the take, I'd yell cut, and then people throw off their jackets, and Allie, the main actress, had like an ice pack she kept in the freezer that she wrapped around herself to cool down. People were outside, we turned on fans, cool the place down as much as we could. And then next take, everyone came back in, put their jackets back on, and went at it. And that was probably one of the biggest challenges of shooting the film, was just weather. And so that really was something I'm really grateful that, again, the cast and crew just were warriors. They just went down, and they, did no one complained, and just went and did their jobs, and did really great work. So I'm really gratified, really grateful for that as well.
Yeah, that's those are, major, potential challenges for sure. And it's so impressive. And I guess it just shows the commitment, of the team, the crew, the cast, yourself, to making this, and having this story be told. And so I guess, like,
About
yeah,
creating
thank you for
drama,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. And I guess, like, to think about, what we have a saying at NAAPIMHA, that this too is mental health, to really understand there's an expansive sense of, what can be considered healing. And I think something we think about is healing through the arts. And so, film as an artistic medium, a creative medium, the ways in which, that's a way to have conversations, to have dialogues on really tough topics, such as, mental health stigma, which in our communities often goes, unspoken about. And so I think, with that in mind, I'd love to know, yourself, Tom, but then our other panelists, like, Pat as an artist, for example, ways in which, this idea of, creativity and healing through the arts, and what does it mean for storytelling, such as you all are doing this evening, can resonate in the larger conversation around how do we talk about mental health for ANHPIs.
Yeah, thank you. I someone asked a question on the side, like, was there any um uh emotional logistics that was hard for the film? And I'd actually have to say that not for this particular film, because in my case, my dad got better, and so I wasn't particularly traumatized by it. But being able to tell the story and then actually see people watch it and react to it is really amazing. And I think that I probably a few years ago, when I was trying to get funding for this film, and it was hard to get funding for it at the time, even though we had pretty strong script that people at university liked. it was really discouraging. And so I ended up writing another film and shooting another film called Find Me, which is we shot at national parks across the West, about a guy who's also had emotional trauma from a divorce. And he found healing through the outdoors. I just made it because I just needed to do something because I couldn't get this film off the ground. We shot it and ended up doing really well in the festivals and also being released on Amazon Prime. And the emails I got from people watching the film, which just blew me away. And watching people's reaction to the film of seeing this person being healed to the outdoors, was just made me realize that, oh, I'm actually doing something that I want to do, which is, I think when you get caught up in the movie making business, it's about like, oh, did I get a Sundance, or am I going to get an Oscar or something? But really, I realized that I decided to get into filmmaking because I wanted to hopefully affect the world in a positive way. And I never thought I could do that until I saw it and Find Me, my last film, the effect it had on people. And for example, I got an email from someone who was going through chemotherapy and said he wanted to email me because he was watching the film while going through chemo. And he said that as soon as he was done, he was going to go get on a plane and go see Yellowstone National Park because of the film. And, who could ask for anything more than that, as far as if you want to make an effect in the film, to have someone tell you that. So in that film, and also in this film too, and from hearing everyone's stories, it just I think that they're different. I think for some people, creative arts is a way to get out your emotions, or be therapeutic in some way. In my case, seeing that my films could affect people in a therapeutic way is my creative outlet, and really amazing to see. And I'm simply just telling stories from my perspective and people that I know around me.
Yeah, that's incredible. Thank you for sharing. I don't know, Nat or Christian or Pata.
Yeah, I'm just still processing the movie. I particularly love, that the ending, it was not resolved. Or there was potential that it was somewhat, but it's still messy. And I love that because that's so realistic, right? And the storytelling among the siblings, their conversations would be the conversations I would be having with my siblings. And the 1-month-old Danish or pastry on the table, I texted my mom, like, Mom, you're not the only one who did this. Like, look. And she felt so seen, right? So storytelling, she just felt so seen. And in my own personal family, how storytelling can be healing is that in my family, it's Thai Chinese. So my dad would never talk about feelings. Like he would go into lecture mode. Like this is how you work hard and earn money. And here I am, a social worker. So yay. And my mom would be on the complete opposite, where when we want to talk about feelings, she would take up emotional space. Right? She would go like, oh, จะคุยอะไรเรื่องอารมณ์ไม่เอาไม่มี and then just walk away in her own like magic dust. So I'm trying to get them to tell their stories about our family lineages. So I wrote a journal that has question prompts for them to fill out. I'm like, you don't have to talk to me about it. Go like write it out. And I was expecting for them to tell their stories on my own time by completing the journal and just hand it back to me. And that was such a big mistake because I learned that, and this is my sister who lives in Thailand. So she's with them. She was FaceTiming me like, Mom and Dad really like read all the questions in the journals and they talk about the questions with each other. So they were doing their own storytelling. And when I was home 3 years ago, Dad would go into the same lecture mode, but he would weave in stories in response to the questions. And he was so clumsy about it. And I just had to play it cool and feel like, okay, Dad. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And my mom too, she would emotionally explosive. And I had to like get past her reactivity. And then she would share stories about her childhood with her mom, my grandmother, that I would never hear about. And in them telling their stories at their own pace, that opens so many doors for us to talk about feelings, which is a new development for us.
That's great.
Mhm.
You know, I have found the arts very healing in my own life. I do a lot of writing, I do spoken word, I make jewelry, and a lot of the time I'm weaving in meaning, I mean, like with the jewelry, I make little reliquaries, little remembrances for people who have passed with the skills that I have and things like that. So I feel like it can be a process that can be healing. It can also be a healing process in the observing or participating, not actually doing the art, like receiving the art, like in your film, right? You created this film, and then there are those of us who are receiving it, who are getting healing through being able to talk, through being able to connect, through things like this. So I think that, and I also just want to say, I think in creating the art, there's a difference between what I call process art, like stuff you do for yourself, and it doesn't have to be gorgeous or, like, doesn't have to be like, a finished masterpiece, right? It has to just work to help you figure out you. And then there's, the product art, right? That's meant for an audience, like want someone else to look at it and see it and understand me and understand, what I'm trying to say through my art. So there's like these two different things. And I think it's all about, it can all be about healing and how we heal through various art mediums. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Christian, would you like to speak to this at all? No pressure, but yeah.
Yeah, no, no, just really quickly, I think again, movies are just a really good way to do so. I think that's one of the arts that I think is most receptive in my family anyways. That we like movie nights, and especially if it's well, my parents really love anything religious, but then we would have conversations about that. So or any like feel good movie or something about family, those are things that that we have conversations about. So like a movie like Dealing with Dad, I think really if we watched it together as a family, I think that this would be something that like it would open a lot of conversations about depression and what that looks like. And yeah, and like even caregiving, something that me and my siblings haven't crossed yet. But I know, like, again, it's been really helpful to kind of like see in film and kind of like in Tom's own kind of storytelling, like what that would look like, as in the future potentially. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you all. I am aware of time, and so, I just want to thank you all for your time today, for our attendees. And then, Tom, I want to give you a chance to, yeah, share like what's next for you, as you continue to draw on your own experiences and make films. Yeah, please share.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I just told you about my film Find Me I Made Before Dealing with Dad. We're actually I'm finishing the script for a sequel to Find Me. It did so well that we're gonna make another film. And it's gonna be about a group of inner city kids from Oakland who decided to go to see the outdoors on their spring break. One Filipino, by the way. And it's actually that's the story, the plot, but really the background is about grief and how to deal with grief, using the outdoors to help you with that. So it just happens to be another mental health issue, but that's what it's about. And then I'm also I have a film that we're trying to get off the ground that's a film noir set in the Japanese internment camps in Manzanar in World War II. So it's like a regular like Humphrey Bogart like 40s film noir, but with Japanese American actors and characters in Manzanar, which I found really interesting, and also something I want to make light of again as what happened in the incarceration camps during World War II. So those are two of my main ones, and I have a few other projects that are done. The scripts are done. I'm trying to get off the ground, but with being an indie filmmaker, you just try to have a lot of stuff going and hope one of them hits, and then just move forward with that. So that's where we're at.
Thank you so much for sharing. Those are both very exciting projects. I want to give a chance for, our panelists, if they want to put maybe anything in the chat, such as like a website where you can learn more about maybe what they do, or anything, that they would like to promote, with their work as well. Please feel free to do so, and hope that is captured for folks. Yeah, I just want to thank you all. Thank you for attending this evening. Thank you for this conversation. Thank you, Tom, for, this film. I think, yeah, I've had a couple watches now. I might watch it yet again because I think there's just so much depth here, and it's just an enjoyable film. So I just genuinely enjoy it, and it's great to see, Asian American faces, families, etc., on screen always. And thank you, Nat, for dropping the Come Back to Care podcast link. Thank you so much. Yeah, I hope all our attendees have a great evening, and take care, everyone. Yeah,
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank
thank you
you.
so much.
Everyone.